Christian Elder was in a horrible crash in practice for the 2002 Busch Series race at Chicagoland. The impact completely flattened the side of his car, and this picture showcases one of the most brutal crashes I have ever seen. Christian was transported to a local hospital following the incident and was cited with a concussion and a broken collarbone. However, 5 years later, he tragically passed away in his home. The scary and unfortunate thing is that his death directly leads back to this very wreck. I'm not going to get a lot into Christian's early life too much because we have a lot to cover in this video and there is honestly not much that I can find on it. I will say that he was born in 1968 in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He first appeared on the NASCAR radar during his time in the Goodies Dash series. He first raced in the series at 27 years old in 1996. In 1997, Christian won his first race at Lowe's Motor Speedway. This was followed by a 1998 season with very few starts, but in 1999 he won the season opener at Daytona, the biggest race of the season. He would make a few more starts over the next few seasons, but would shift his focus to the ARCA series and K&N series in 1999 and 2000. During this time, his starts would be far and few between, but in 2001, Christian would land a part-time gig in the Busch Grand National Series for Brad Aikens with support from Great Clips driving the number 38. This number sponsor combination would become somewhat of an iconic duo that would last until the team closed its doors in 2005, sponsoring a multitude of drivers. Unfortunately, Christian DNQ'd at Daytona, the season opener in 2001, the same track he conquered just 2 years prior in the Goodies Dash series. His best finish of his debut season was in his third start at Bristol, a 20th place finish, which was also a track he won a pole at in the Dash series. Out of his 16 starts that season, he only finished 9 of them after crashing out in 5 races and suffering 2 mechanical failures. However, things were looking up for Christian in 2002. Outside of the wrecks in his debut season, Christian was running decently well. Because of this, he would be back to pilot the number 38 for 2002. This time, he actually qualified for Daytona, but crashed out. A wreck at Rockingham, followed by an engine failure in round 3 at Vegas, meant that a month into the season, his best finish was a dismal 36th place. The team came back for round 6 at Texas, where he actually managed to finish, but this was followed by an engine failure on lap 2 at Talladega, resulting in a 43rd place finish. After the first 5 races of 2002, the team only managed to finish once with a best finish of 31st. However, the season got even worse for Christian. Late in April at Auto Club Speedway, Christian was involved in a wreck at the beginning of the race. The wreck did not look too severe, however, Christian was diagnosed with a herniated cervical disc. Cervical discs are discs between each of the 7 vertebrae of the cervical spine that act as shock absorbers in the neck. A herniated cervical disc means that one of these shock absorbers was displaced, creating potentially a multitude of problems, including pain and discomfort, and in some situations can even be life-threatening. It was evident that Christian would be out for several weeks, and Mark Green would fill the shoes for Christian. Hope was not lost, as many people expected to see Christian back in the car sooner rather than later. Following the incident, team owner Brad Aikens stated, "We are glad that Christian's injury was diagnosed while there's a high percentage of it being repaired and before any more damage could occur." On May 30th, a full month after the incident, Elder stated, "I haven't felt the same or quite right since the California race. It's unsettling to find out you have an injury of this nature at any time, but when you're a race car driver, you don't want this kind of news in the middle of the racing season. At the same time, I am very lucky to have been diagnosed, knowing that another accident could have made it worse. Right now, I am anxious to get the medical procedures and rehabilitation behind me so I can get back behind the wheel." Around 2 weeks after this statement, Christian was back in the car. It's quite concerning considering he had just stated that another incident could make it worse and that he said he wasn't feeling right at all. He came back at Kentucky Speedway, but skipped out the next week at Milwaukee as Mark Green once again filled the driver's seat. He came back the following week in Daytona and was involved in this late race crash. It looked like a hard lick, but he was able to walk away without a problem. However, the same cannot be said about this next wreck. Real quick, I wanted to shout out my free weekly newsletter. All you have to do is sign up with your email address to get notified when a new one drops, or you can check out my articles and all of the newsletters available on my website. Everything is completely free and both links are in the description. Now, let's get back to the video. During practice for the Chicagoland race, Christian just lost control of his car. The wreck, although a hard hit, plays out as a pretty routine crash, but the damage to the car was astounding. Christian had to be cut out of his car by track officials and was quickly rushed to a nearby hospital. Christian was alert but disoriented when he was removed from the car. The wreck was reported to be 82 Gs. This wreck is even more horrifying once you factor in the surgery he had following his herniated cervical disc at Fontana just 2 months prior to this incident. Also, just 30 minutes later, Dan Pardis escaped injury in this horrific wreck. Christian was cited to have a concussion and a broken collarbone as a result of the incident. He was kept overnight in the hospital for further evaluation, but ultimately, CT scans and other tests came back negative. Now, I can't verify what other injuries he had, but in this picture of Robbie Gordon, you can clearly see a cut on his forehead. Some claim that he had other broken bones, but I personally cannot find proof of this, even though it might be true. This wreck effectively ended his NASCAR career as he never made another start. So for a broken bone and a concussion, it seems kind of weird that it was a career-ending crash, right? Well, despite the wreck, he did continue racing after, despite many claims that the Chicagoland wreck ended his racing career. In an interview with motorsport.com the next year in 2003, he stated that he was focused on racing in the SCAA Speed World Challenge Series. Considering his injuries from Fontana and Chicagoland, racing of any kind was risky. His exact racing timeline is unclear to me from this point on, but he did transition to a project manager position in his family-run business. Tragically, out of nowhere, news broke in mid-August of 2007 that Elder died in his home in Cornelius, North Carolina, due to accidental methadone toxicity. The incident really did not receive much media attention, which was surprising to me, so the details on the whole situation are not all there. So I had to kind of piece the details of the whole situation from a lot of different sources. Christian was prescribed methadone for chronic pain as a result of his accident 5 years earlier at Chicagoland. The exact cause of his death is still a little blurry for me. Some cite the death was caused by mixing up pills that he was taking due to his accident. This was referring to a Chicagoland accident. However, others say that his heart could not handle the drugs prescribed to him. Whatever the case may be, methadone toxicity claims his life, and if it was not for his Chicagoland incident, this would not have been his fate. So this is what makes the Chicagoland wreck sort of mysterious to me. It was reported by major media sources that Christian Elder only had a broken collarbone and a concussion. Broken bones and concussions are definitely common in NASCAR, and many drivers easily come back after a few months off. But he was taking methadone 5 years after the incident. I find it hard to believe that this was just for a broken bone or concussion. I'm not a doctor, but there must have been something else that went unreported. I also wonder how much more the Chicagoland wreck complicated his previous injuries from Fontana. I'm not sure exactly what my point is here, but it seemed like he may have been put back into the car before he was fully recovered. It also seems like there was some major internal issues going on, because once again, he was taking methadone 5 years after the incident for chronic pain. Initially, after it came out that Elder had unfortunately passed away, many speculated this was due to cancer. However, this was quickly debunked after his sister posted this. The actual cause of death would be revealed after the autopsy. Just to speak on Christian a little bit more, I found this about him. I didn't get to dive much into his background information, so I wanted to read this about him so you guys could learn a little bit more about him as a person. His work was always done at 100% and never less. His work ethic always led to gaining the respect of his peers and clients. Christian had an energetic and adventurous soul. He was charismatic, and his smile and laugh would brighten any room. He had a passion for life that would take him to explore many corners of the earth, drive at great speeds, dive to great depths, and have fun every day like it was his last day. Those that knew him well also know that he was an extremely loyal friend. He took great joy in spending time with his friends and family and was always willing to lend them a helping hand. As a friend, as a brother, and as a son, he was loved by many. Rest in peace to Christian, a very tragic passing as a result of a very dangerous sport. I would love to know if anybody has any more information around this situation. Just let me know down in the comments below. But that does it for this video. Let me know what you thought of in the comments down below, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace.